In Nehemia, why do you see these discoveries? Why are they so important in our time? Because the Jews are looking for the coming of the Messiah.
Mhm.
Here, these Jews were saying that the heavens must receive the Messiah until the restoration of all things.
Right.
And we're seeing things restored that we never imagined. The Gentiles could have never have imagined the stuff that's going on right now.
Well, Michael, I see this as part of a pattern, a pattern of history of restoration. And it's interesting. He doesn't just say this isn't a new doctrine. He says this restoration is something spoken of by the prophets. So when I hear that, I say, well, which prophets? And I look at what's happened really since starting in the 1800s. We had the return of the Jews to the land of Israel. They were scattered throughout the diaspora and began to return in large numbers in the 1800s. We have the restoration of the Hebrew language, which is prophesied in Zephaniah. We'll get to that in a minute. The return of Jewish sovereignty after 2,000 years, the liberation of the Temple Mount and the rest of Jerusalem. I mean, we have a psalm about how Jerusalem is united as a city, and it actually happened in 1967.
Mhm.
The restoration of the calendar, the restoration now of the name, and the discovery of these Hebrew Gospels. I have to wonder if this isn't part of this whole pattern of restoration. And I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Messianic Jew, but I'm seeing these restorations of even of these ancient Hebrew documents. I think this could be part of the pattern. And it gets me excited, Michael, because I asked the question, Michael, what's next? If we've seen all these things restored in our lifetime, many of these in my lifetime, things you'd never expect to have happened. I mean, I've shared this with you before on the program about how in the 80s, the Jewish leadership was talking how it would take centuries to liberate the Jews from the Soviet Union. And now over 1 million Jews have returned. I mean, in the return of the Jews from Ethiopia, we are seeing restoration, people waking up around the world and realizing they've been called to the God of Israel. That's the Isaiah 56 prophecy. Michael, I want to read one prophecy to you. Jeremiah 32:41. This is part of what it's talking about in Acts 3:21. So what's really interesting about this verse, let me read it. And this is talking about the return of the exiles, God bringing the exiles back and planting them in their land. He says, I will rejoice over you to do good to you, and I will plant them in this land in truth with all my heart and with all my soul. And you know, Michael, in the entire Bible, it talks repeatedly about loving God with all your heart and all your soul. It's in the Shema. When they asked Yeshua what's the most important commandment, he said to them, Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad. Yehovah is our Elohim, Yehovah is one. And then he says, Ve'ahavta et Yehovah Elohecha. And you shall love Yehovah with all your heart, Ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha, and with all your soul and all your might. And in all of the entire Bible is only one place where God says he will do something with all his heart and all his soul. And that is planting the people of Israel back in their land. So when we hear, that's not some small trivial thing. That is the only thing God ever said he'll do with all his heart and all his soul. And he's done it. It's begun to happen. It hasn't been completed. We still have millions of Jews in the diaspora and the 10 lost tribes. And so there's ways to go, but it's beginning to happen, and God does that with all his heart and soul.
Oh, that's incredible. And Jeremiah 32, this is right after he receives the revelation that his cousin is going to come in to the prison and offer for Jeremiah to buy some land, and he puts the title deeds in earthen vessels and to bury it in that land. And he says that this is going to happen, that Israel's going to come back one day. And
I love that prophecy because I know where Jeremiah was from. I've been to that place, the village of Anatot, and it talks. I mean, it's an incredible image there. They're buying and selling land, and they're like, "You're gonna want to buy land? This is worthless. The Babylonians are about to take the land."
Right, they got the siege wall around Jerusalem.
Right, you want land? I mean, it's like buying swampland in Florida, right? I mean, what would you want this for? And his point is that this prophecy will be fulfilled. And now we look back, and the prophecy has been fulfilled. Now the nations of the world don't want this. They're murmuring and they're speaking against Yehovah and against his Messiah, like it talks about in Psalm 2. They wanted to, the UNESCO has made this proclamation that the Jews have no historical connection to Jerusalem. Jeremiah wrote this, whether you believe in God or not, there's no disputing Jeremiah wrote this in around 586 BC. We know the date from archaeology. So he wrote this in 586 BC. And he's talking there about how God will do this with all heart and soul, plant the Israelites back in their land. And UNESCO says that there's no connection between the Jews and the land. What are they talking about?